Herein we should conclude Agesilaus from Plutarch's Lives, translated by John Dryden, revised by Arthur Hugh Clough. Stratagem only avails with men who are alive to suspicion, and, expecting to be assailed, expose themselves by their attempts at defense, but one who has no thought or expectation of anything gives as little opportunity to the enemy as he who stands stock still does to a wrestler. The Mendesian was not wanting in solicitations of Agesilaus, insomuch that Nectanebus grew jealous, but when Agesilaus advised to fight the enemy at once, saying it was folly to protract the war and rely on time, in a contest with men who had no experience in fighting battles, but with their great numbers might be able to surround them and cut off their communications by entrenchments, and anticipate them in many matters of advantage. This altogether confirmed him in his fears and suspicions. He took quite the contrary course, and retreated into a large and strongly fortified town. Agesilaus, finding himself mistrusted, took it very ill, and was full of indignation, yet was ashamed to change sides back again, or to go away without effecting anything, so that he was forced to follow Nectanebus into the town, when the enemy came up and began to draw lines about the town and to entrench. The Egyptian now resolved upon a battle. Rumbling the template here. Out of the fear of a siege, and the Greeks were eager for it, provisions growing already scarce in the town. When Agesilaus opposed it, the Egyptians now suspected him much more, publicly calling him the betrayer of the king. But Agesilaus, being now satisfied within himself for these reproaches, patiently, and followed the design which he had laid, of overreaching the enemy, which was this: the enemy were forming a deep ditch and a high wall, resolving to shut up the garrison and starve it. When the ditch was brought almost quite round, and the two ends had all but met, he took the advantage of the night and armed all his Greeks. Then going to the Egyptian, "This, young man, is your opportunity," said he, "of saving yourselves, which I all this while durst not announce, lest discovery should prevent it. But now the enemy has, at his own cost, and the pains and labor of his own men, provided for our security, as much as of this wall is built, will prevent them from surrounding us with their multitude. The gap yet left will be sufficient for us to sally out by. And now play the man and follow the example the Greeks will give you, and by fighting valiantly save yourselves and your army. Their front will not be able to stand against us, and their rear we are sufficiently secured from by a wall of their own making." Nectanebus, admiring the sagacity of Agesilaus, immediately placed himself in the middle of the Greek troops, and fought with them, and gained credit with the king. Proceeded to use, like a trick in wrestling, the same stratagem over again. He sometimes pretended to retreat, at other times advance, to attack their flanks, and by this means at last drew them into a place enclosed between two ditches that were very deep and full of water. When he had them at this advantage, he soon charged them, drawing up the front of his battle equal to the space between the two ditches, so that they had no way of surrounding him, being enclosed themselves on both sides. They made but little resistance. Many fell, others fled, and were dispersed. Nectanebus, being thus settled and fixed in his kingdom, with much kindness and affection invited Agesilaus to spend his winter in Egypt. But he made haste home to assist in wars of his own country, which was, he knew, in want of money, and forced to hire mercenaries, whilst their own men were fighting abroad. The king therefore dismissed him very honourably, and, among other gifts, presented him with 230 talents of silver toward the charge of the war. But the weather being tempestuous, his ships kept in shore, and passing along the coast of Africa, he reached an uninhabited spot called the port of Menelaus, and here, when his ships were just upon landing, he expired, being 84 years old, and having reigned in Lacedaemon 41, 30 of which years he passed with the reputation of being the greatest and most powerful man of all Greece, and was looked upon us in a manner general and king of it, until the battle of Leuctra. It was the custom of the Spartans to bury their common dead in the place where they died, which happens to be the healthiest in different respects, but whatsoever country it was, but their kings they carried home. The followers of Agesilaus, for want of honey, enclosed his body in wax, and so conveyed him to Lacedaemon. His son Archidamus succeeded him on his throne. So did his posterity successively to Agis, the fifth from Agesilaus, who was slain by Leonidas while attempting to restore the ancient discipline of Sparta. Now, honey does help preserve, but it's much better to let the wax be used otherwise, and which, sure, it can trap things, but yeah, the wax, the body's going to rot and trapped in wax. But yeah, don't waste honey putting it on dead bodies. That's